I want to take you back to a time in my life where each step forward felt like I was stepping in water. Growing up in a single mother household, growing up in the South Bronx, growing up in a very abusive household, I thought the world is against me. The system is unyielding. It's set up the way it is, and there's nothing I can do about it. Just about every day felt like a storm. And you know what they say, when it rains, it pours. There's so many memories, so many moments I could think of. Many of them filled with gratitude, some painful. But one story in particular I remember involves my mother. My mother, a single mother, a hard-working Hispanic woman, was the anchor of our household. She held 2 jobs and was the lifeline that put food on our table. There's so many stories I could think of. This one involved her working as a receptionist for a lawyer. She arrives to work, completes her day. When the lawyer tells her, pack your things and get out. Fires her on the spot. Now people get laid off, but see, my mother had not gotten paid 2 weeks leading up to this day. So she pleads, can I at least get paid for what I've worked? The lawyer laughs at her, smirks, and says, I'm not paying you anything. Besides, you're a woman who barely speaks English. Nobody is going to believe you. Now, she told me this story once when I was 17 years old, another time when I was 20 years old, and this time, it ignited a fire within me. Why? See, this time, I had just been dismissed from school myself. I was dismissed due to my academic failures. And that is actually my grades that I failed out with. In addition to that, I was physically overweight and emotionally burdened, every day sinking under the sheer gravity of my depression. But I would always put a smile on my face because I didn't want my mother coming home from work after working the graveyard shift to come home and have to deal with another problem. Some days she would come home looking like a zombie. So I did what a man does, what a man is supposed to do. I stood quiet and dealt with my problems on my own. I had severe breathing difficulties due to my allergies and a deviated septum. I told myself I would never be one of those people who says, why? Why me? But after waking up in the morning, many times in the middle of the night, gasping for a breath of air, literally fighting for my breath, I would find myself crying, asking God, why can't I deal with all my other problems? Why do I have to deal with simply having to breathe? My car was recently totaled, and I couldn't afford to fix it. Every day, this is how I drove around. I would drive into campus like this. I would drive around wherever I had to go, like that. I felt embarrassed. I was let go from my position as assistant manager at one of New York's most esteemed gym franchises. Now, one thing I remember is my mother always stood resilient. But this time when she told me the story, she showed me how much she was earning. And she was earning $6 an hour, just under $20,000, taking care of myself and my 2 other siblings. Now, my mother's perseverance taught me one thing. We are all going to go through adversity, and we are all going to face times of darkness. It's how we respond to that adversity that determines who we are. And I found myself asking the question, should I give up? Now, I want to ask all of you, do you think there's ever a justifiable reason for you to give up on moving forward? Please raise your hand. Now, I want to ask you, do you think there's always a reason to get up every day and move forward with your life and persevere? Raise your hand if you agree. Well, I agree. But the unfortunate truth is the only right answer is the answer that you choose. See, we're all going to face adversity. I bet just about anyone you could think of has gone through adversity and could have made excuses. Don't believe me? I'll tell you some people who could have. Former President Kennedy could have easily said, "I'm too young to become president." Roosevelt could have hidden behind his legs. Oprah could have listened to the people who said she is not fit for television. Emmanuel Hansa, after his tragic injury of losing one arm, could have easily said, "This is enough. I don't need to move forward." But instead of asking for pity, he persevered. And this one quote that resonates with him, that I will never forget, is the right attitude with one arm will always beat the wrong attitude with two arms. Every time. Now that quote speaks so many volumes, not just on the basketball court, not just in any sport, but in every facet of life. See, we could all make excuses. One thing that we can learn from all these notable people is they chose to make reasons to persevere instead of excuses to stay where they were. And then it clicked for me. All excuses made by the mediocre person can be, but are not made by the successful person. Excuses or the victim mentality separate the person going places in life and the person barely holding their own. You see, the reason why I say I cured my excuses is because many of our excuses are like a disease. Every time an individual has a good excuse, they use it and they hold on to it. Then that person relies on that excuse always as an explanation as to why they are not moving forward in life. As if, yes, that is the true alibi as to why they are not successful. And oftentimes, we see they lack accountability. Now, I had a shift in my perspective. And I realized that my excuses don't mean anything as long as I make reasons to move forward. And my choice to persevere came down to this one simple truth. My why is far bigger than my excuses. I decided the next time I would speak about not feeling like I was enough, the next time I would speak about my failures, I would say that is why I chose to be successful. Now, I stand here today as a professional private trainer, in addition to vice president of a fitness and wellness program here at the university, helping students push past their mental barriers, in addition, reach peak performance. And I'm honored to say that I'm enrolled into the university, have achieved an academic status well over a 3.0, and I plan on completing my undergraduate this year of 2024. Now sure, curing my excuses allowed me to go from this before to this after. And sure, curing my excuses allowed me to go from getting kicked out to achieving an academic status well over 3.0, improving my grades. And sure, it allowed me to be accountable, work hard, and go from this car on the left to be able to drive this car on my right. But most importantly, from my mother, I don't think you know what you did. The same person who many times was disregarded due to her background, the same woman who was told she's not good enough, the same woman who said, I gave up on my dreams for yours, is now inspiring so many people with her story. You really never know who you are going to inspire. Whether it's at this moment, whether it's a decade later, you truly never know. Now, that is my beautiful mother when I graduated high school. Now, we can all be the rose that grows in the crack of concrete. And if there's anything you could take away from this talk, is truly anything is possible. Does not matter where you come from, does not matter where you are at this moment. You can change where you are tomorrow, next year, and a few years from now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have one more question for you all. One last question. What is your excuse? Thank you.